In April 1962, Oldsmobile rolled out something American buyers had never seen in a dealership. The F85 Jetfire arrived as a two-door compact with a turbocharger bolted to its engine. This was not a concept car or a race special. You could walk into an Oldsmobile dealer and buy one off the lot. Under the hood sat an all-aluminum 215 cubic inch V8, breathing through a Garrett turbocharger. The numbers told an incredible story. This tiny engine made 215 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque. That worked out to exactly 1 horsepower per cubic inch of displacement, a ratio that seemed almost magical in 1962. Engineers obsessed over that 1-to-1 figure. It meant Oldsmobile had figured out how to extract massive power from a compact package. For context, most V8s of similar size were making maybe 150 to 170 horsepower. The Jetfire's little aluminum block was punching way above its weight. But the engineering got even stranger. Oldsmobile knew that turbocharging created heat and detonation problems. Their solution was a water methanol injection system they marketed as turbo rocket fluid. This special mixture cooled the incoming air charge and prevented engine knock. The system had its own reservoir that drivers had to keep filled. If the fluid level dropped too low, a safety valve would automatically cut boost pressure to protect the engine from destroying itself. The Jetfire looked similar to a regular Cutlass from the outside. Aluminum side panels and Jetfire badges set it apart, but most people would not notice unless they looked carefully. Inside, the dashboard featured a special gauge showing power versus economy settings and a warning light for low turbo rocket fluid. With the automatic transmission, the Jetfire could hit 60 miles per hour or 96 kilometers per hour in about 9.2 seconds. That was genuinely quick for a small American car in 1962. The Jetfire shared its turbo distinction with only one other American car that year. Chevrolet had just launched the Corvair Spider with its own turbocharged engine. These two models represented the entire turbocharged production car market in the United States. Despite the advanced technology, the Jetfire became a maintenance nightmare. Owners forgot to fill the turbo rocket fluid tank or simply ignored the warning lights. When the tank ran dry, the engine suddenly lost all its extra power. Some owners complained about complexity. Others just wanted their car to work without fussing over special fluids. Oldsmobile engineers later admitted they had over-engineered the system. One called it a monstrosity of extra parts, belts, pumps, and control mechanisms. The whole setup was too complicated for average drivers who just wanted reliable transportation. Sales reflected these problems. Oldsmobile moved 3,765 Jetfires in 1962 and 5,842 in 1963. Only 9,607 total cars were built before Oldsmobile pulled the plug after the 1963 model year. By 1965, General Motors was so embarrassed they offered to convert old Jetfires to simpler carbureted engines at no cost to owners. The 215 cubic inch aluminum V8 itself had a longer life. Oldsmobile eventually sold the design to British Rover, who used variations of it for decades. But the Jetfire and its troublesome turbo system disappeared from history. No American automaker would attempt turbocharging again until Buick brought it back 15 years later. Today, surviving Jetfires are rare curiosities. Most were either converted to naturally aspirated engines or scrapped long ago. The car that should have started a turbo revolution instead became a cautionary tale about complexity versus practicality. By 1966, the muscle car craze was in full swing, but most performance cars were smaller models like the Mustang or GTO. Ford decided to do something different. They took their full-size luxury sedan, the Galaxie 500, and created a one-year-only special model called the 7 Litre. This was a muscle car hiding in a suit and tie. The 7-liter came with Ford's brand-new 428 cubic-inch V8 engine, borrowed from the Thunderbird luxury coupe. This engine produced 345 horsepower in standard form, with optional higher output versions available. Ford even offered 410 horsepower and 425 horsepower versions of the 427 engine for buyers who wanted more. The 428 engine was massive, displacing exactly 7 liters, which is where the car got its name. Ford made sure everyone knew what was under the hood by adding special 7-liter badges on the fenders and deck lid. This was not a stripped-down street racer. The Galaxie 500 7-liter came loaded with high-end features as standard equipment: power front disc brakes, power steering, bucket seats with a center console, air conditioning, and special 14-inch styled steel wheels all came on every 7-liter. The interior used leather-trimmed seats and trim pieces borrowed from Ford's upscale Thunderbird. This was a luxury car first, with muscle car performance included. Ford's advertising called it the smoothest brute on wheels and the quickest quiet car. Those slogans captured exactly what the 7-liter was about. It could sprint to 60 miles per hour, or about 97 kilometers per hour, in the mid-7-second range. That was genuinely quick for a big, full-size car. Modern road tests noted it had about the same power as a 1965 Ford Mustang Shelby GT 350, which was a dedicated performance car. The difference was the Galaxie could do it while carrying 6 people in air-conditioned comfort. On the outside, the 7-liter looked understated. There was a subtle pinstripe along the belt line and the special badges, but otherwise it looked like any other Galaxie 500. That was the point. You could pull up to a stoplight looking like a normal luxury sedan, then leave everyone behind when the light turned green. This was the ultimate sleeper muscle car. Ford only offered the 7-liter for 1 year, making it a rare bird today. In 1966, Ford built 8,705 two-door hardtops and 2,368 convertibles in the Galaxie 500 and XL series, but far fewer actually wore the 7-liter badges. The car came as both a hardtop and convertible, giving buyers the option of open-air performance. Contemporary car reviews praised the blend of smooth ride and strong acceleration. The 7-liter proved that muscle cars did not have to be harsh or uncomfortable. U-phrase could have serious performance and luxury together. The Galaxie 500 7-liter was Ford's answer to buyers who wanted it all, and for 1 year, in 1966, they delivered exactly that. In 1955, Chrysler did something nobody expected. They took parts from 3 different luxury cars, bolted them together, and created America's first true performance luxury car. The Chrysler 300, later called the C300, used a New Yorker body shell, an Imperial front end, and a Windsor rear clip. It was automotive Frankenstein, but the result was beautiful. Under the hood sat Chrysler's legendary 331 cubic-inch Hemi V8 engine. This was not just any V8. It came with dual 4-barrel carburetors and a race cam, producing exactly 300 horsepower. That number was massive in 1955. Most family sedans were barely making 200 horsepower. Chrysler had essentially taken racing technology and put it in a car you could buy at a dealership. The performance numbers were shocking for the time. The C300 could hit 60 miles per hour, or about 97 kilometers per hour, in roughly 10 seconds. That might not sound impressive today, but in 1955, it was rocket ship fast for a full-size luxury car. The top speed was well over 120 miles per hour, or 193 kilometers per hour. At Daytona Beach, a C300 averaged 127.58 miles per hour during a flying mile run. For context, that was faster than many dedicated sports cars of the era. Chrysler did not just drop a big engine in a luxury body and call it done. They upgraded the suspension to handle the power and lowered the ride height for better handling. They added power steering and power brakes as standard equipment. This was a car designed to go fast and be comfortable doing it. The interior was plush, the ride was smooth, and yet it could dominate on a racetrack. The press did not know what to make of it. Here was a four-door hardtop with refined luxury trim and Duesenberg-like power. One magazine called it unlike any other car, and noted it was a full-size sedan with the most powerful engine available. The nickname Banker's Hot Rod came from the fact that the typical buyer was wealthy and successful. You needed to be. The C300 cost $4,109 in 1955, which would be roughly $46,000 today. That was serious money for a car back then. Chrysler proved the C300 was not just for show. In its first year on the track, the C300 helped Chrysler win both NASCAR and AAA stock car championships. These were real racing victories with production cars. The C300 was not just fast in a straight line, it could handle corners and endure the punishment of professional racing. Only 1,725 of these cars were built in 1955, making them incredibly rare. Many were actually race-prepared and used hard. Today, it is estimated that only about 10% of the original production survives. The 1955 Chrysler C300 proved that American cars could be both luxurious and high performance. It set the template for every factory hot rod that followed. After the Jetfire disaster, American automakers avoided turbochargers like a bad investment. But in 1978, Buick decided to try again. They introduced the Regal Sport Coupe Turbo, bringing forced induction back to United States showrooms after a 15-year absence. This was not a small experimental program. Buick had been testing turbocharged V6 engines in a 1976 Indianapolis 500 pace car. Those tests convinced them the technology had matured enough for production. By mid-1977, they were ready to launch the Turbo Regal for the 1978 model year. The engine was a 231 cubic inch or 3.8-liter Buick V6 paired with a Garrett turbocharger. Buick offered two versions to buyers. The base setup used a two-barrel carburetor and made 150 horsepower at 3,800 revolutions per minute. Step up to the optional four-barrel quadrajet carburetor, and you got 175 horsepower at 4,000 revolutions per minute. Both used a cast iron block with strengthened pistons and a modified camshaft to handle boost pressure. The real innovation was something Buick called the Turbo Control Center. This was essentially an early knock sensor, years before other manufacturers adopted the technology. An accelerometer mounted in the intake manifold listened for engine ping. When it detected detonation, the system automatically retarded spark timing to prevent damage. This let Buick run higher boost pressures safely on pump gasoline. All 1978 Turbo Buicks ran on unleaded fuel through catalytic converters. California models even got an air pump to meet that state's stricter emissions standards. Buick was proving you could have performance and clean exhaust. The turbo option was available only on specific models. You could get it in the Regal Sport Coupe or the similar Litre Sport Coupe. It was not offered on the Fastback Century that year. This limited availability kept production numbers relatively low. The 175 horsepower model delivered strong mid-range torque that made the car feel quick in real-world driving. Performance numbers were solid for the late 1970s. 0 to 60 miles per hour or 96 kilometers per hour took around 9 to 10 seconds. Top speed was theoretically around 110 to 120 miles per hour, or 177 to 193 kilometers per hour. These were not supercar figures, but they were respectable. Handling stayed true to Buick's comfort-first philosophy. This was not a sports car. The suspension was soft, and the steering light. But the turbo engine made the Regal feel noticeably quicker in traffic than a standard V6 model. You got V8 acceleration without the fuel consumption penalty. Buick dressed up the Turbo Regals nicely. Many came with metallic paint, optional, T-tops, and upscale interior trim. These were handsome, well-finished cars that looked expensive. But despite the solid engineering and decent performance, the Turbo Regal never caught fire with buyers. Buick kept it in the lineup for just 3 model years, 1978, 1979, and 1980. Sales were modest. Most Regal buyers stuck with the cheaper, naturally aspirated V6 or optional V8 engines. The Turbo Regal quietly disappeared after 1980. Most people forgot it ever existed. Later in the 1980s, Buick would return to turbo V6 power with the famous Grand National and GNX models. Those cars became legends. But the 1978-80 Regal Turbo that started it all remained a footnote. Today, these early Turbo Regals are extremely rare. They were overshadowed by their more famous descendants and never got the recognition they deserved. Yet they proved turbocharging could work in mainstream American cars and set the stage for Buick's later performance machines. The Muntz Jet was the creation of Earl "Madman" Muntz, a flamboyant American television and radio salesman who decided he wanted to build cars. In the early 1950s, Muntz was already famous for his outrageous advertising stunts. He once sold television sets while wearing a Napoleon hat, screaming about bargains. This was a man who understood showmanship. He had made his fortune selling used cars and electronics, but his real dream was to create a flashy automobile that bore his name. In 1949, Madman Muntz bought the rights and tooling for a 2-seat sports car from race car engineer Frank Curtis. But Muntz had bigger plans. He did not want just another sports car. He wanted something luxurious, something that could carry 4 people in style. So he stretched the aluminum body to add a back seat, transforming the compact sports car into a 4-passenger Grand Tourer. This was highly unusual for the era. Sports cars in the early 1950s were almost always 2-seaters. The Muntz Jet broke that mold, becoming one of the first high-performance 4-seat cars with a removable hardtop. The Muntz Car Company built the Jet from 1951 to 1954 in very limited numbers. Production started in Glendale, California, and later moved to Illinois. In total, only about 198 cars were ever built. Each one was essentially handcrafted. Under the hood, the Jet packed serious power for its time. It came with either a Cadillac or Lincoln V8 engine, making around 160 horsepower. This was serious muscle in the early 1950s. The car featured an automatic transmission for smooth, effortless cruising. Muntz did not hold back on luxury features either. The Jet came with a padded dashboard, seatbelts, power steering, and a power-operated top on some models. These features were almost unheard of in 1950s cars. The body sat low to the ground at just 54 inches tall, giving it a sleek, aerodynamic look that matched its name. Earl Muntz spared no expense building his dream car, and it showed in the price. In 1953, a new Muntz Jet sold for around $5,500, which was extremely expensive. That was more than a Cadillac convertible cost that year. The problem was that Muntz was losing about $1,000 on every car he sold. Each Jet cost about $6,500 to produce, well above the selling price. In total, Muntz lost approximately $400,000 on the venture. But Madman Muntz did not seem to mind. He was building more than just a car. He was building a brand, an image, a legend. He marketed the Jet with catchy slogans and his own larger-than-life personality. Each car even had a cartoon logo of Madman Muntz on the steering wheel, a constant reminder of the eccentric character behind the machine. On the road, the Muntz Jet lived up to its billing as a land yacht. It measured, almost 17 feet long and weighed about 4,000 pounds, which is 1,814 kilograms. This was a true heavyweight cruiser, but despite its bulk, the Jet could move. With its high-torque V8, The car could exceed 100 mph, or 161 kilometers per hour. This made it one of the fastest American cars of its day. Automotive writer Matt Stone later described the Jet as one of the fastest and best-performing American cars of the time. Yet it was also comfortable and well-appointed for 4 adults. Muntz had created one of the first personal luxury cars, predating famous models like the Ford Thunderbird. In fact, Muntz later claimed that the Ford Thunderbird, which debuted in 1955 as a 2-seat luxury car and became a 4-seater in 1958, was inspired by his Jet. The Muntz Jet attracted celebrity buyers. Hollywood stars like Grace Kelly and Mickey Rooney owned Muntz Jets. Despite its glamorous owners and ahead-of-its-time design, the Jet was too costly to survive. Muntz shut down production in 1954 after only a few years. His car business was an economic failure, but the car achieved cult status among enthusiasts. Only an estimated 50 to 130 of the original 198 Jets still exist today, making them highly prized by collectors. Decades later, restored Muntz Jets have fetched over $100,000 at auctions. The Muntz Jet remains a monument to 1950s American optimism and swagger. It was a quirky V8-powered luxury hot rod dreamed up by a TV salesman with more imagination than engineering experience. That is exactly what makes it one of the strangest road-approved V8 cars in history. By 1970, muscle cars had a problem. Insurance companies had caught on to the trend and were charging young buyers massive premiums for big-engine cars. Oldsmobile came up with a clever solution. They created the Rally 350, a 1-year-only package that offered genuine performance without the insurance penalties of a big-block engine. The Rally 350 was essentially an appearance and performance kit for the mid-size Cutlass and F85 models. For just $158.98 extra, which was an incredibly low cost, buyers got something truly wild. Every single Rally 350 came in Sebring yellow. Not just yellow paint. Everything was yellow. The bumpers were coated in yellow urethane. The wheels were yellow. The trim was yellow. Oldsmobile made sure that nobody would miss seeing this car coming. But the Rally 350 was not just paint. Oldsmobile added a fiberglass hood borrowed from the high-performance 442 model, complete with functional air scoops. A rear spoiler went on the trunk. The grills were blacked out. Rally 350 side stripes ran along the body. Inside, buyers got a sport steering wheel. The exterior also featured color-matched 14-inch Super Stock 2 wheels, all in that screaming yellow. Underneath the eye-searing paint job, Oldsmobile included real performance upgrades. The Rally 350 got dual exhaust pipes from the 442, a quick 3.2 3-to-1 rear axle, and heavy-duty rally-tuned springs and shock absorbers. The suspension was specifically tuned for performance driving. Every Rally 350 came with a high-compression 350 cubic-inch Oldsmobile Rocket V8 with a 4-barrel carburetor. In stock form, this engine produced 310 horsepower and 390 pound-feet of torque. That was measured in 529 newton-meters of torque. A 3-speed manual transmission came standard, with a 4-speed manual or automatic available as options. The performance was solid. The Rally 350 could hit 60 miles per hour, or 97 kilometers per hour, in the high 7-second range. Reports claimed around 7.7 seconds. That was not super fast by 1970 muscle car standards, but it was quick enough to embarrass many muscle cars from the late 1960s. More importantly, because it had a smaller engine, insurance companies charged much less than they would for a big block car. Oldsmobile only built 3,547 Rally 350s total in 1970. Of those, only 160 were the smaller F85 Coupes. The rest were Cutlass and Cutlass S hardtops. The low production numbers make the Rally 350 genuinely rare today. The Rally 350 was Oldsmobile's answer to younger buyers who wanted style and speed without destroying their bank accounts with insurance costs. By covering every visible surface in bright yellow, Oldsmobile made sure the car stood out. Enthusiasts today call it the original sleeper muscle car, though that nickname is a bit ironic. You definitely could not miss the bright yellow paint. But underneath that flashy exterior was a genuine performance machine with a clever approach to beating insurance rates. Modern collectors note that Rally 350s often sell for less money than many other 1970 muscle cars, despite their rarity and unique character.